What time is it?
Time to go to Bone Town.
In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Katelyn Hart.
And I'm Sophie Schwartz. This is the show where we talk about bones and bone-related topics.
I hope you're liking it so far. So far in the first 5 seconds.
Well, you must have liked it enough to come back for part 2 of our Cemeteries Royale. This is the triumphant return from the B room, the exciting conclusion, the furious photo finish of the Cemetery Royale. And I do not think that you will be disappointed by this week's competitors.
No, round 2 is a strong round. Round 1 was good, but we really brought it in round 2, and that's where everything came down to the final details.
That's where it all shook out one way or another. Remember, the stakes of this are that the winner receives flowers to their workplace by the loser. But all cemeteries are winners in my heart. This is about the people winning and losing.
Yeah, that's why the stakes are low.
Yes.
It's bragging rights and flowers at work. So very casual. Thank you for coming back. Thank you to Jeffrey Nichols, who is going to be our referee for round 2 of the same recording.
Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed part 2. Take it away, past us.
Yeah. What do you have to say, Katelyn, Sophie, and Jeff?
So I want to start mine off with a picture to the two of you.
Oh, interesting.
Strong. So we are looking at Mount Moriah Cemetery in Philadelphia.
Wow.
Did you say Moriah?
Yeah. Moriah.
Okay.
This is beautiful.
My sources are an article from the Philly Inquirer, uncoveringpa.com, and Wikipedia. So this cemetery is interesting because it's a rural, overgrown, like abandoned cemetery.
Love.
It's interesting because it was like one of the first cemeteries, rural cemeteries, that was accessible by streetcar. And I just love when anything's accessible by streetcar.
Was it a streetcar named Desire?
No, it was a streetcar named Death.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
But it was also one of the first cemeteries in the area to allow the burial of Black people, Jews, and Muslims. So we love that.
Yeah. Thank God somebody did it.
Yeah. And this cemetery caters to a more middle class clientele. It originally occupied 54 acres, but then grew to approximately 200 acres.
Whoa.
And it's the largest cemetery in Pennsylvania. And they were burying people for about 150 years. And it's the resting place. I have to leave that for size. So the cemetery ended up closing its gates in April of 2011 and has no owner.
So I guess here's where I would like to ask some clarifying questions based on the research you two have done. So like, who usually owns cemeteries? Is it common for them to be privately owned, or is it like usually like a municipal thing, or like what, like how does it how do these places usually work?
Cemeteries can be owned by private companies or by municipalities or by like families. They're usually owned by someone.
Mm-hmm.
Someone owns the cemetery. If nobody or someone takes care of it.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't done a ton of just like straight up cemeteries on the show, which is why I'm glad we're doing this. But I can remember talking about Evergreen Washelli in Seattle. Have you heard of that one, Jeff?
I don't know.
It's a big old cemetery in Seattle, and it started out as like a family plot, and then I'm pretty sure the city bought it, but I
Where
could be
is
wrong.
it? Which one was that?
Up in like Shoreline on Aurora.
Is
Did
that
you
the
ever
one-
get did you ever get COVID tested up there?
No, I got my COVID testings over at UW. But is it like the one that's like on the way to like Home Depot and stuff?
Yes.
I drive by there all the time, and I'm always like, I should really just like walk around this beautiful looking place of death.
It was, yeah, Seattleites, and maybe we should cut this out because this is not on topic, but like Seattleites kept, or what was the story? It was like the family kept burying people, and then they kept having to move the bodies because of urbanization.
Yeah.
And so at the time, this cemetery was like really outside the like downtown area of Seattle. So, and then now, of course, we know there's a Home Depot right by it, there's a major street. So it's like what was sort of the outskirts of Seattle is now a big part of the city.
Wow.
And I'm pretty
That's
sure
really
the city
interesting.
owns it, but I could be wrong there.
Okay. And then I guess, and you know, I don't want to like derail things too much, but this is back to like this cemetery specifically. And also like just a question I have, I don't know if you guys come across this, but like, is it like a problem if someone can't take care of a cemetery? Like, are there like health concerns or like environmental concerns or anything that happens, or is it just kind of sad?
So I would say there aren't any health or environmental concerns usually if it's an old enough cemetery. And we in the Western world tend to bury people in coffins most of the time. So they're pretty enclosed. And the only danger would be the embalming fluid, actually, which would seep into the soil and make it kind of toxic.
I think it's more people are worried about preserving history and like
exactly. Yeah.
There was a kid, I want to say somewhere, there's a Jewish cemetery on the East Coast that this kid, Nathaniel, just like was like, this is a very old Jewish cemetery, like the first Jewish people that lived in this colony. Somebody should be taking care of this, and nobody was. So he has a GoFundMe where he just like tries to tend to the cemetery that the city's forgotten.
Wow.
And like similarly to that, this place became, all the graves are overgrown and stuff, but also became a place for like illegal dumping and people leaving lots of trash, just abandoning stuff in the cemetery.
So wait, are we getting into the categories?
I will, yes.
Okay.
Cool graves.
Cool graves.
So the size of this cemetery made it ideal for churches and fraternal organizations to purchase large plots for members. So there are plots for the Free and Accepted Masons, Odd Fellows, Knights of Plianus, Elks, and American Mechanics. All purchase large plots in the cemetery. Also, private institutions such as the Presbyterian Home for Widows and Single Women.
Oh my God. Oh no.
So I thought that if we ever just need a place to rest, we could go and hang out with the other widows and single women.
I guess so.
Yeah. A person of note that you might recognize who's buried here in 1856, the remains of Betsy Ross. You know, made the flag Betsy Ross.
Yeah.
She and her third husband, John Claypole, were moved from the Free Quaker burying ground in Philadelphia to Mount Moriah. And then the Daughters of the Revolution erected a flagpole at the place where she is buried, and you can still see that flagpole.
Yes.
Nice.
Quick aside, I fucking love the Quakers. We know this.
Oh, sure.
They kick ass. This is my favorite person who is buried here, though. Major Benjamin Loxley. He lived from 1720 to 1801, and he was a friend of Benjamin Franklin. And he lent Benjamin Franklin his fucking house key to tie to a kite to get struck by fucking lightning.
Wow.
And I never even thought that it wasn't Benjamin Franklin's fucking key.
We never talk about the key.
Yes.
Why would you need to borrow a key?
Maybe he couldn't find his.
Maybe
I feel like Benjamin Franklin was a chronic key misplacer.
he was kind of a selfish asshole, maybe. He was like, I don't want to use my key. That's ridiculous. Another cool grave is, this is not a grave that is inside this cemetery, but it was a grave that was intended to be inside this cemetery. In the 1870s, Henry Jones, who was an affluent Black man who worked as a caterer, purchased a large lot for himself in Mount Moriah. And after his death in 1875, his funeral procession was blocked from entering the cemetery by white lot owners, and cemetery authorities refused to bury him because of his race.
Wow.
But a lawsuit was filed against the cemetery in 1876 and ruled that Jones could be buried in the cemetery, but his family said, fuck you, and buried him somewhere else.
Yep. It was just the principle of the thing. I love it.
It was just the principle of the thing. And that is cool graves from me.
Oh, yeah.
These are great. We've got some rich American history here.
We do, yeah. I'm comfortable giving this like a 8 or a 9.
I could do an 8.
Yeah.
I'll take an 8. Nothing too sensational, but we got Betsy Ross.
Yeah, just some solid graves, just like, the who's who of the time.
Yeah. Very stylish.
But I want to know, is it haunted?
Ooh, I have a picture to send you. Okay, so in terms of haunted, yes, this cemetery has many, many people buried in it and looks decrepit as hell. So of course it's probably haunted. So the people who are taking care of the cemetery right now are the Friends of the Mount Moriah Cemetery. And they have erected these signs throughout the cemetery that say, no dumping, violators will be prosecuted, vehicles confiscated, and haunted by the interred.
That's gorgeous.
Do they have the authority to do any of those 3 things?
I mean, possibly.
I get prosecuting, but I mean, are the Friends of Moriah gonna confiscate your vehicle right then and there?
I also just want to say friends is often like a Quaker term. So this could be maintained by Quakers.
By militant Quakers who are ready to jack your car.
Yes.
I have a special set of skills.
Yeah. I do have a quote from one of the volunteers that says, quote, I think the signs are just kind of whimsical for the rest of us to drive by. It kind of makes the battle we're facing against the dumpers a little more tolerable.
Yeah, well, I think that's good. And I think at the very least, the metaphorical haunting of knowing how terrible of a thing dumping in a graveyard is good.
Yeah, and this graveyard has graves of both Revolutionary War and Civil War veterans in it.
Wow.
So we're talking double war cemetery.
That's got to be haunted. I mean, there's no more like unfinished business. War is like the main cause of unfinished business, I feel, for people.
Yeah, but I would like to think that all of the ghosts in this cemetery have banded together to pick out who's been dumping to go haunt them.
Right.
So that's my hauntings for this one.
It's great.
Yeah.
What do you think, Katelyn?
I give this one 7 or 8.
Yeah,
7.
I think there's definitely like a threat of haunting, and I'm sure there's got to be a lot of like hauntings happening, like you said, based on like 2 different generations of wars. So yeah, I'd give it an 8 for haunting.
I'll take an 8 happily. All right, for setting, I'm sending you guys a few more pictures. Like I said, this place is incredibly abandoned, and it's built in a kind of almost circular fashion. I'll send you a picture here of this aerial view where you can see the graves are kind of in a circle with one large monument in the middle.
Oh my God.
Wow. This is amazing. Also, you said there were a lot of like lodge people, like,
yeah,
right, buried there. So this has like Masonic vibes, like all kinds of stuff. And the circle, and
a lot
like,
of geometry happening.
It's almost like a crop circle cemetery.
Yeah, there's a lot of sacred geometry.
For
Right.
our listeners, all of these pictures will be on Instagram, Facebook, and our website. So please check them out.
Yeah, but the last one I sent you was a view, that big brown building that's in the front. The most formidable part of this cemetery is, of course, the like gatehouse at the front,
Right.
which is this brown rundown building that I sent you a picture of the inside of it. You know, the person who lived there used to take care of the cemetery, but now that it's just, volunteers who come there sporadically, they're trying their hardest, man. But like, as you can see, there's a lot of overgrown. I sent you a picture of a crypt that has been almost completely claimed by the environment. And that's kind of why I love it. I have a fascination with abandoned places. I like me an abandoned mall. I like me an abandoned house, but best I like me an abandoned cemetery.
Are you on the abandoned mall subreddit?
I am not, but I go there for fun sometimes. I don't have a Reddit account, but I go.
Yeah, I that's one of my top subscriptions. I love a good abandoned mall, and like all of this is just giving me strong post-apocalyptic vibes, which, as you know, is absolutely my aesthetic.
Yeah,
Yes,
100%
definitely.
So
Yeah, I mean, I'd be comfortable. Are you done? I'd comfortable
Yes,
with
I'm
my
done.
rating.
I'm
I'd give
done.
it a 10. This is incredible.
yeah, I think we're just on natural setting and beauty. Yeah, I think a 10 is deserved. I was thinking 9.
I would be comfortable with both.
Either.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely has a more of like, I mean, not strictly Midwest, but like I like how we're kind of like switching up regions, and it's got a lot of very specific stuff to it. So okay, if you're feeling 10, I mean,
Either way, I'm right in between 9 and 10.
yeah, let's go 10. I just think it's I mean, it's a whole new level of like what about it is so beautiful, but just like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'd never heard of this place. I was just
No.
looking around for cool cemeteries, and I found this place, and I was like, this is amazing. We have to go when we visit John.
You said 200 acres.
Yes.
I mean, that sounds like you could make an entire day of it. Just it's so sprawling.
You really could.
Yeah, and as far as size, we're talking 150,000 graves. That's why I kind of stopped myself at the top, is that this cemetery has so many people buried in it. It was active for, I think, a little over 150 years. And after its owner died, it was just left to decay like this.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's size.
It's large, it's spread out, so like every group's got their own kind of little, like the Masons have their corner. There's just a lot of variety. Yeah, wow, it's very impressive.
What do you think?
8 or 9.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
it's big, but it doesn't thrill me.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's go 8.
It doesn't thrill me, but we're giving it a very high score. I'm wondering if we should have done a rating scale of 1 to 5 now, because we just.
Well,
no, I think no, it's okay.
I think 1 to 10 is good because we're basically doing a 1 to 5, but we're just ignoring 1 through 5.
Yeah. It's really a 6 to 10 score.
Well, and also like there are graveyards that would have those lower scores, but they wouldn't be ones that you picked, like
exactly. We didn't select them.
This is cream of the crop, and these are the ones that made it out of the. You had a top 8 at one point, right? And you already had to whittle it down.
We didn't have them all
style.
chosen, but we wanted to do a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, this is like you're bringing out New Orleans, you're bringing out Georgia, you're bringing out Pennsylvania. Like, this is good stuff.
Yeah, Pennsylvania is a little left field, but I thought it was fun, and that kind of brings me to Je ne sais quoi, which is just in the middle of rural Pennsylvania. You're gonna find this place that is filled with Masons and Revolutionary War vets. The lady who fucking sewed the flag.
Yeah. There's something about like the state of disrepair it's in that's like kind of tragic, but in this beautiful way. Because like already cemeteries' purpose are to be like a testament, like a preserving memorial to life, but then to see that symbol also in decay. I don't know. There's just a lot happening with metaphors.
Yeah. The picture of the graves in a circle really like did it for me with the masons and the desolate nature and everything. It's just really cool.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of stealing of people's monuments too. I didn't go into that too much, but several statues have been stolen from this place, and people tried to resell them.
There's no security, and it's very, I mean, there's trees around it, but I would guess that I didn't see a single fence in the pictures that you sent.
I would love to see a shot of this in the winter. I feel like that would be like a whole nother level that like you might not get in the Georgias or the New Orleanses.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Ooh,
snowfallen graves.
I'm feeling a 9 for Je ne sais quoi.
Great.
Cool.
Great. All right. Let me readjust myself.
Cemetery.
I think you're right. This might need to be a 2-parter.
I think it'll be a 2-parter. I think I'll cut it in half. A to be continued.
Just stay tuned for part 2.
Yes.
Anyway. All right.
And then we get 2 episodes out of 1 recording.
That's really beautiful, actually. That's really great. Okay. Okay. I'm going to take you, of course, to Salem, Massachusetts.
Oh, Katelyn.
Katelyn, you nasty dog.
Lap it up, doggies.
I was like, how are we going to get more haunted than New Orleans? And yet.
Sorry.
Katoon came to play.
I'm just going to go ahead and put a 10 in for haunting right now before we get started.
I haven't even started or told you the name of the cemetery. I love it. This is Howard Street Cemetery in Salem, Massachusetts. Okay. Sources here were historyofmassachusetts.org, another article from ghostcitytours.com, and of course, Find a Grave, which is becoming like Wikipedia to Sophie and I. Find a Grave is actually really helpful.
It is. It really is.
All right. So our first burial at this cemetery was August 5th, 1801. This guy's name was Benjamin Ropes. He was a second mate on the ship Belisarius.
And his name was Ropes?
Benjamin Ropes.
Oh my God.
So, like I said, this was first started in 1801. As the cemetery grows, well-known Salem families were buried here. Lots of immigrants, particularly from Ireland. There's lots of Revolutionary War veterans, of course, because we're in Massachusetts. We've got Colonel Samuel Carleton, who, quote, raised a company and marched to Ticonderoga and also was with Washington at Valley Forge. We've got Captain John Collins. I don't know any of these guys, but in case anybody that's listening really likes the Revolutionary War. Captain George Crowninshield Jr., Ebenezer Burrill, Benjamin Henderson, Captain Jonathan Millett, Charles Richardson, and Stephen Wood. There are also 17 ship captains buried here.
Damn.
One of them was commander of the ship Brutus. He died when his ship was wrecked off Cape Cod in 1802.
Damn.
So this first category is done. I will say I have more to tell you, but these are the cool graves for now.
Those are pretty cool graves. Those are prestigious graves.
What did you say the first year of burial was there?
1801.
1801. Okay. So no, I'm not going to ask. Those are very cool graves. I think we need to give her credit for the amount of ship captains.
Right. No, I'm saying like I don't think I personally deserve to be buried here. This is like there's a level of like professionalism, that these people earned.
Yeah, it's a lot of big deals in this time period. Revolutionary War heroes, captains. Cool. But to be continued.
Okay. What are you feeling?
I'm feeling like, and again, just because like these are all great, I think this feels like a 7. These are like really, really solid personnel, just nobody that I personally know about.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to applaud, like that's a lot of ship captains.
How many ship captains was that?
17.
That's so many.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd say 7 or 8 if you're feeling generous.
I have a feeling there's going to be some high scores coming up here, so I don't think we should worry about the 7.
All right, we'll give her a 7 for the ship captains.
All right. So you'll notice that this cemetery was established in 1801.
Sure.
What was happening there before 1801, you might ask? There was a lot of shit with the Salem witch trials.
Here we go.
Yes, I knew this was coming. I was wondering why you
course.
started in the 1800s. I was like, why are we in the 1800s?
I know, I tricked you.
Tricked
So
me.
I'm just going to read this quote. This, I believe, is from ghostcitytours.com, and it's delightful. If you're up for a graveyard gallivant, you won't want to miss Howard Street Cemetery. Already visiting? Keep a close eye out for an unmarked grave. Its inhabitant, one of 5 men executed during the Salem witch trials, is thought to haunt the hallowed ground.
Oh, God.
So before it was Howard Street Cemetery, it was an open field where Giles Corey was pressed to death in
Oh my God.
1692 by Sheriff George Corwin.
Okay, so, and not to get too graphic, but what is pressed to death mean?
Yep. I was going to tell you later, but I can tell you right now.
Like, I have a guess, and I hate it.
Pressed to death is also known as peine forte et dure, French for strong and harsh punishment. So this, I'm going to just quote it because it's nasty. If you're squeamish, maybe skip ahead a minute. This quote required that the victim be pressed until they entered a plea into the prosecution. This was a trial strategy, basically.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, an
The
interrogation method.
Yep. The victim's chest would be bound with a board, then burdened by rock or stone. If they refused to plead, they would be crushed until death. So they're putting one big stone on at a time, and it's just slowly crushing their organs and their bones.
Until they were like guilty or not guilty. Oh, okay.
Until they either were crushed or pleaded one way or the other.
Yeah.
And he's the more weight guy, right?
Sophie.
I'll cut that out.
Of course he is. All right. So, of course, he gets pressed to death in this field. You think he's not going to haunt that motherfucker?
Yeah.
So, he allegedly, while he was being pressed to death, because it was a long process, he had some time to say some words. He damned and cursed the city of Salem. And he said, quote, "Damn you, I curse you," the sheriff who was ordering this, and Salem. So sheriffs of Salem do have a tendency to die from cardiac complications or resign, like for health problems.
I would resign.
Yeah. So local legend blames the Great Salem Fire of 1914, which broke out near Gallows Hill, on the curse of Giles Corey.
Whoa.
Of course.
So allegedly, people reported seeing him walking around the cemetery, and then the fire broke out nearby.
Jesus.
So like I said, the first grave, when this became a cemetery, cut to 1801, this guy that I mentioned, Benjamin Ropes, was apparently crushed to death while launching the fore topmast on the ship that he was working on. And according to this guy named Tim McGuire, who owns the Salem Night Tour, quote, around 15% of the people buried in the cemetery were crushed to death, and many others died in tragic accidents, including 10 prisoners who were later buried here after the fire when a floor in the Salem jail collapsed.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yes.
It's so messy. These are just like messy ways to go.
Yeah. The source did want to point out, and it is important to point out, this cemetery was established around the time of the Industrial Revolution. So just so you know, this horrible, I'm not trying to minimize the horribleness of their deaths, but there were a lot of crushing work-related accidents around this time.
And you had like the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire a couple years later.
Yeah.
So rough time to be working and be poor also.
Rough time to be lower class.
Yep. So yeah, it's fucking haunted.
Oh yeah. I mean, you had someone accused of being a witch slowly crushed to death who, bad idea if you think someone's a witch. Don't give them all the time in the world to curse your law enforcement and apparatus. And yeah, it's just poor strategy.
Just stupid.
Yeah, very haunted. I mean, I think that's the time you just described. The circumstances by which you would make something haunted if you really were trying.
Thanks.
I think I'm very comfortable with you just slapping a 10 in there.
You had me at Salem.
Yeah, I was wondering when you did your first segment on cool graves, I was like, bitch.
Where's the witches?
I buried the lead.
You buried the witches.
Yeah. No, not me personally.
No.
Actually, don't
bring Katelyn into this.
Well, I think this doesn't give anything away. There aren't any known witches buried at this cemetery because they're buried in unmarked graves. You know, they were just burned, so there's no grave, or they were hung and then they were just like buried where they were. So I don't know, might need to fact check this, but I don't know if most of their bodies have ever been found or if they know where they're buried. Maybe they do.
I mean, I think that's a common theme in a lot of witch trials around the world, is burying witches in disrespectful ways.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so we're on to category 3, which is setting. Before I send you the pictures, I just want to point out this is Salem's 4th oldest burying ground.
Wow.
Earliest death date, like I said, 1801. The latest death date is, I guess, in the 1950s. So you can't get buried here anymore. So in 1805, they built a church next to the cemetery and they called it the Howard Street Church. That's when the cemetery has changed names several times. And then they named the cemetery after the church, even though the cemetery came first. And then in 1813, they built the Salem jail right next door.
Wow.
And that's the one that collapsed. So there are 10 prisoners buried in the cemetery because a floor collapsed in the jail right next door. And then I guess in 1871, this is just interesting, the church was replaced by the Prescott School. So they tore down a church and they put a school up. And that school's got to be the most fucking haunted school in Massachusetts.
Absolutely.
Going there must be kind of fun, though.
I don't know if I could handle it.
Is it still a school?
It's probably like a McManus
I don't know
at this point.
Probably.
All right, I'm going to pop off all of my pictures.
Oh, wow.
So I wouldn't say the most remarkably beautiful cemetery. I mean, of all of the cemeteries that we've looked at today, but I think it's interesting that it's in the midst of, like I said, a school. It kind of looks like that might be a school in the first picture.
Yeah.
A church, or it used to be a church, sorry, the jail. Like there's all these buildings around it. There's one where it's just like somebody's kind of crappy looking house or some kind of back of a building.
Someone's backyard.
So I like that the city has kind of grown up around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too.
And it's very old, obviously, but it's not the oldest cemetery in Salem.
That's lovely. I bet the autumn here, it is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh,
yeah. Oh,
can
definitely.
you imagine a full moon night, autumn night?
I'm getting like heavy Hocus Pocus vibes from this one.
Ooh, perfect.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, aesthetic is great. You know, it's definitely like if this was like a teen TV show with some supernatural stuff happening, this would be like the hub. You know, you'd be coming here all the time. It's lovely.
This is
they
where
would
you come to hunt vampires.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say they would film Buffy the Vampire Slayer here, no problem. I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay, so for score, I don't know. How's an 8 feel, Sophie?
8 or I don't know, 7 or 8.
I kind of know what you mean, just because like it's again, just like we're already talking about like the top notch. Yeah. Okay, let's go 7. Even though I do think like it being like this in the middle of like a modern city, this like relic to the past is like such a compelling.
Then
visual.
give it an 8.
I think I'm comfortable with 7.
Okay. I'm not trying to lowball Katelyn.
So for my last category, my je ne sais quoi.
No, we still gotta do size.
Oh God, you're right.
How many graves?
So this cemetery is 2.5 acres. There are about 1,100 headstones. So pretty small, actually.
compact though. We like a busy cemetery.
Yeah,
I think it's average.
Yeah, I think it's a perfectly good size for its like location, and for its history, It's...
Yeah. All those ship captains.
Oh, right. I forgot about the ship captains.
Yeah, it's very old. Don't forget all the Revolutionary War people.
Yeah, but it just feels like nice and spread out, even though it's like not that big of a plot. And, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, fine.
How do you feel, Sophie?
I mean, I don't know, 7.
Okay, yeah, just good.
Because it's not. The New Orleans one was so like compact.
Yeah,
like
right.
It was so extreme in both directions of like small footprint, big body count. Whereas this one, it kind of matches.
Whereas like I do always want to give something to it not being too dense. Just kind of nice to have some room to stretch.
Some walking around room.
All right.
Well, for my final category, I think I want to just knock your socks off by telling you the story of Giles Corey and what happened to him before this cemetery was a cemetery. Giles Corey, this is kind of the brunt of my, maybe this wasn't the right choice because I kind of put witches in certain sections because of necessity.
Sure.
Giles Corey was an English-born American. He found his fortune on the farmstead, apparently.
Ew.
And he settled in Salem with his third wife, Martha. They went to church. They owned a lot of land, which was great for them.
Good for them.
That's awesome, you guys. Giles Corey was a little bit of a stinker. In 1676, one of his farm hands, I guess, stole some apples, and he was beaten so severely that he died of blood clots. And Giles Corey was the murderer.
Oh my God.
Yep. He was actually convicted of unreasonable force and he had to pay a fine, but he was not punished because the guy was working for him. So I guess there was like, it was allowed, you were allowed to beat your workers, and oops, he died. So what was the vibe?
Oh my.
He also was accused and tried for theft twice. And everybody thought that he set the guy, John Proctor's house on fire at some point.
Okay. He is a little stinker.
Not John Proctor.
Wait, Crucible Proctor? I don't know.
Yep.
Oh,
Yes,
right.
it
I
is.
was like, where's that guy?
Yes, it is. So, but by 1691, the Salem church had, quote, received Corey by the consent of the congregation. So they had like, even though he had some kind of seedy shit in his past, he was welcomed into the congregation. This is rough. So his wife, Martha, was also accused of witchcraft. And it's kind of unclear which one went first. Like different sources say different things. What is clear is that he did testify against her. He later withdrew his accusations, but she was hung as a witch on September 22nd, apparently. But that's just one source saying that. So it's, like I said, it's kind of unclear which one died first. And I just want to say, you can't trust anything that people say on the stand in the Salem witch trials. This guy was probably being tortured before he was crushed to death, like that was their whole thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, 100%. It's the whole thing is just the most infuriating logical mess of like, a lot of the time the tests that they would use were basically like suffer through pain or else you're a witch. It's just like it was like meant to get the confession out of people, and it's unreliable, and obviously torture is horrible, and like every attempt in modern days never gets like good intelligence. It's not even useful. If you need me to do or say anything at all, torture me for 1 second, and you got it. You know what I'm saying?
So Martha his wife was found guilty based on spectral evidence, proof, and I'm going to use proof in quotations, provided in dreams or visions of the witnesses. So come the fuck on.
Oh, okay. Wait, so these are like ghosts and dreams?
Yeah. So basically, Giles Corey is accused of witchcraft, and then all these little ladies, Ann Putnam Jr., Mercy Lewis, Abigail Williams, testify that he and his wife appeared to them as a phantom, claimed that he had shapeshifted into a specter in an attempt to force Mercy Lewis to sign the Devil's Book. He was accused of assault. And then one woman, Abigail Hobbs, named him as a witch in her own fucking trial for witchcraft.
I mean, but they would
So
do
again,
this to like little girls. Yeah,
I'm saying Abigail Hobbs is being tried as a witch, and she's like, oh, and this guy's a witch, and they probably tortured her to say that. So you can't
they
trust
have
that.
them name other people.
So here's where it gets bad. So he just like refuses to even like comment on the trial, and that's where we get the
pressing.
The pressing.
The pressing.
The peine forte et dure, which some sources say this was illegal because it was so like cruel and inhumane. But then this source says English law ordered that those who, quote, stood mute during trial plead or be punished. So yeah, it's stupid. And just because he was such a badass, his last words were more weight.
A little stinker till the end.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So Giles Corey and Martha were the only couple put to death in the 1692 persecutions, and they're buried in an unmarked grave. So this is just a little more flavor. He was excommunicated the day before his death.
Oh.
If not for witchcraft, then for suicide, because they considered what he was doing suicide. The church did, because he could plead and not have been crushed to death.
Yeah, but then he just would have been hung or something instead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a total mind fuck.
That sucks, especially if you're someone who's religious and they're like, oh, we're gonna
again, just like with a lot of these stories, it's like, were they planning on making this the most haunted place possible? Like,
yes,
accusing someone of witchcraft, excommunicating them, and then the next day executing them. That's
horribly and painfully. Yeah. So one bright note, I guess, his death was considered a turning point in the Salem witch trials, just because his death was so gruesome and awful. Yeah. So they were kind of like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Down a little bit. Yeah. And since his death, Giles Corey's name has been cleared of conviction, washed of witchcraft, and he was apparently canonized.
Oh. Well, isn't that nice? That doesn't super help.
Worth it, right? Just kidding. That it's not.
Wow.
So that's my je ne sais quoi, is the story of Giles Corey.
Incredible.
Witch trials.
I mean, I think we have to give that a really high score.
I mean, just with everything. So I know that this one got like some lower marks based on some of the criteria. Just, and especially with what we were going up against in terms of like setting, natural beauty, size,
completely,
yeah. But I would say this is one where like, man, on just the right night, like on a moonlit, November 2nd, when it's like a little chilly in the air and you turn the corner and this place pops out and it is like an absolute portal to like the other side, or everything.
Yes.
Like, this is a 10 for je ne sais quoi.
Agreed. I happily agree to a 10 for je ne sais quoi. All right, so I guess all that's left to do is some calculations.
Tally the results.
All right, so I'll bust out my mathematical device here.
Thanks, Jeff.
Do a little division.
Jeff, that's a giant, what is it, T18 calculator?
Yeah, my Texas Instrument. I programmed it to play Pac-Man.
Take a look at my Texas Instrument.
Did you write boobs upside down by typing 8,005 or something? Whatever it is. 5. Well, I can't remember.
Okay, so cemetery number 1. Could we get its name and just like a 1-sentence descriptor of what it is again for a refresher?
Yes. Cemetery number 1 was Colonial Park Cemetery. That's the Savannah, Georgia cemetery. It's got the vandalized graves in the plague pit, as well as Spanish moss and a ghost that likes to strangle people.
Cool Graves, 7. Haunted, 10. Setting natural beauty, 9. Size, number of bodies, 8. Je ne sais quoi, 8. Average score, 8.4.
Ooh.
Nice.
Very good cemetery.
Nice.
All right. Well, I'm crunching the numbers first. Katelyn, Cemetery 1. Would you give us the name, and a one sentence refresher?
Absolutely. So for your ear candy, I provided information about St. Louis Cemetery number 1 in New Orleans, established in 1789. We've got the Voodoo Queen herself, Marie Laveau. We've got Homer Plessy of Plessy versus Ferguson. We've got an extremely haunted place with vandalism, ghosts telling you to take them home. And we've got one city block full of about 100,000 dead people. We've also got Nick Cage's future grave, okay?
So for Cool Graves, we got an 8. Haunted, that's a 10. Setting natural beauty, 8. Size, number of bodies, 9. And that certain je ne sais quoi gotta be a 10 for a total average score of 9.
Damn.
Whoa.
Amazing. Katelyn, you're gonna have to tell me what kind of flowers you like.
Not yet.
All right, let's get Sophie, Cemetery number 2.
All right, my cemetery 2 was Mount Moriah Cemetery in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's insanely overgrown and nobody owns it. Betsy Ross is buried there, as well as many Masons, Elks, and Knights of many different orders, as well as Benjamin Franklin's friend who lent him his house key for electricity reasons. It's out in the middle of the rural Pennsylvania. It's formed in a circle, and people need to stop dumping there or the ghost will fucking get them.
That's right.
That's right. So for Cool Graves, 8. Haunted, 8. Setting natural beauty, that was a 10.
Hey.
Size, number of bodies, 8. Je ne sais quoi, 9. For an average score of 8.6.
Ooh.
Nice.
And finally, Katelyn, Cemetery 2.
We had Salem, Massachusetts's Howard Street Cemetery. Lots of Revolutionary War veterans, ship captains, 17 if you'll remember. And it was a very scary spot where Giles Corey was crushed to death in 1692, and then it became a cemetery. So no shit, it's haunted.
Right. And the numbers will, of course, agree with that. Cool Graves, 7. Haunted, 10. Setting natural beauty, 7. Size, number of bodies, 7. Je ne sais quoi, 10. For an average score of 8.2.
Damn.
Nice.
Wow. These are some great cemeteries.
That's really close.
Yeah, you picked some really, really good ones. So, I mean, this has been fascinating.
Yeah, thank you for coming along with it.
Wait, who won? I didn't write anything down.
All right. Well, so is it your combined scores, or is it whoever had the one cemetery that was like the best one?
What do you
Did
think?
we agree on that? Is it your total scores for both, or is it per cemetery?
I thought it was going to be total scores for both. What did
Total
you
scores
think,
for
so?
both. Okay, so did you write them all down, Sophie?
I did. So my score would be 8.4 plus 8.6. Why am I doing this on paper? I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you just
have a phone.
like, I mean, whoever had the highest combined score would have. I mean, I think the math still checks out.
I have 17, and Katelyn has, let's see, 9 plus 8.2. 17.2. She wins by 0.2.
Damn.
Wow. So
Well,
close.
we both came out swinging.
Yeah. It was I think it was a fair fight. Jeffrey.
Yes.
Yeah, if you average all the scores together, which you could just do by dividing these by 2, so you already know this, but it was an 8.6 to an 8.5.
Oh my God.
That's so close.
It was a well-fought battle, and it wasn't even a battle. Like we said, we're just naturally competitive.
I am honored to lose to you.
Well, and I mean, I had a lot of fun. Jeff, I hope you did too.
Oh, I've had a blast. Yeah.
Because
I love
think
a good cemetery.
Good. Yeah, I think we should do this again. And we confined ourselves to the United States for this 2-part episode now, which was not going to be a 2-parter, and now it is. Yeah. Oh, I can't believe I won. Sorry.
Yeah, you won. And I'm very happy for you. And you'll what are your favorite type of flowers? Daisies, right?
Daisies, yeah. Daisy's a family name, so we'll go for daisies.
Oh. All right, well, you can expect a dozen daisies at your desk with a bow
someday.
Someday.
I had a little bit of business to attend to. Just really quick, we got a great email from our friend Andy Weisler, and I just wanted to give him a shout out. He suggested a couple of topic ideas, and I think I'm going to cover one next time we record. So please, if you have a topic suggestion for us, send us an email, anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com. You can submit a form on our website, which is anythingbonespodcast.squarespace.com. DM us or message us on Facebook if you're old. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, this was so fun.
For newer listeners, Jeff was in episode 14 of this podcast, Anything Bones. And we brought him back for 33 and 34.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my pleasure. I think my audio quality should be better this time now that I'm home and not using a whole makeshift thing that I had on the road. So.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Bandit Improv in the Dark is The Bat is a show that I've been in. We're kind of in between finding a permanent virtual home, but past episodes can be found on the Facebook Bandit Theater page. Otherwise, I've got a gaming YouTube channel that I'm just getting kicked off the ground. Gonna get the first series on the Fire Emblem games. That'll be Nixie Games, Nicksey Games. And that's everything I have to plug right now.
Awesome. Well, do you have a bone that you're liking right now?
Oh, right. Man.
Doesn't have to be your favorite. We already covered that.
Yeah, what's a bone that I've been liking?
Or appreciating?
I said cheekbones last time. I don't know. I think I slept on my ribs weird, and I've just had a little tenderness like right above like my ribs. And that's just got me thinking of all the things your ribs do for you. So, I mean, I'm sure it's a pretty common answer, but yeah, I'd just like to give a shout out to the ribs and everything they hold in place.
Ribs. Yes.
They protect everything. Your heart, your lungs, more stuff.
Yeah.
All your gushies.
All the gushies.
All right. We've been recording for like 2.5 hours.
All right.
Love you guys. Bon voyage.
Bon voyage.
Bon voyage.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
at Chubby Scrubby on Twitter
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
at Camilla Strader on Instagram
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe. All those ship captains.